Did you know that anxiety and depression are signs that your body needs healing, that your soul needs healing, that your beliefs need healing? I wanted to share with you a little bit about how I went from being on depression medicine, anxiety medicine, and ADHD medicine to not having to take any of those things. So if you are new here, my name is Alana. I'm a psychic medium and an etheric body healer, and my goal is to help people heal rapidly so they can start to create the life of their dreams. For context, when I started my first medication, let's say depression medication, I was probably 20 years old, 21 years old. I was in a marriage, because I've been married twice now. I was miserable. I'd lost myself in that. I had tried to be a part of a relationship that I didn't want to be in. Like, I really didn't want to be in that marriage. I tried to back out. But I forced myself because I didn't want to embarrass myself. I didn't want to embarrass him. And so I did. And a year later, I got so depressed because I had left my home. I left my job. I had changed all of these things about me, and I lost myself. And I was at the point where I was so depressed that I literally looked at him and I was like, it's me or you. And I'm going to pick me every day. And then I got on medicine because I thought that was all we could do. You know, depression is such a common thing nowadays that it's nothing, right? You're like, oh, you're fine. Everybody's depressed, right? But the problem with that is we have normalized being so mentally unstable, so sad, that it doesn't help people. Really, yes, the medication helps a lot of people, don't get me wrong. But what happens is it starts to numb us. It starts us to make it where we can't feel our emotions. And what happens when we can't feel our emotions? We can't purge. We can't feel them. We can't release them out of our body. And then that creates more anxiety and more disease, autoimmune disorders, the big C, creates havoc in our relationships. It really affects everything. Eventually, when my mother died, I got on anxiety medicine, just as my mother did. Okay? It was so difficult, processing all of that grief because she was the most important person to me. Even though she was mentally unwell herself, I loved her so much. And so I was distraught for at least a solid 6 months. I didn't sleep well. It was really bad. And so, of course, I was on depression medicine. I was on anxiety medicine. It wasn't much longer after that I got on ADHD medicine because I just couldn't figure it out. I couldn't understand what was going on. What really was going on after, doing all this immense amount of work was that I was still dealing with a significant amount of grief. Significant. And because I didn't know how to process it, or I processed my emotions by myself, because that's how my mom, raised, she didn't hold space for me. She was like, go to your room when you're crying. You can come out when you're done. And so I didn't know how to process my emotions. Got a therapist, right? I had a therapist too. I had a therapist for 8 years. Did not help. Helped a little bit on the surface, but it didn't make significant changes. It wasn't until I started my healing journey and I started really feeling the feelings and I started moving through it, that's doing the limiting belief shifts. That's where the healing started. By that point, my dad had already passed, so I had grief on that too. However, what really started changing is the moment I started doing my healing journey. I started my healing journey, but right before that, I had to have myself removed from depression medicine, from anxiety medicine, from ADHD medicine, all three, because I was trying to get pregnant. I'd lost a child. There was complications and defects, and so I wanted to clear my system out as much as I could so I could have another child. So I switched to a natural supplement that helped with all of that, and that really helped a lot. But again, I was still dependent on something, okay? So as I started doing my healing journey, I got to the point where I didn't even need the medicine or the supplement. And I was like, okay, let's go. And then I got COVID and it brought me back down. I got depression every single time I got COVID. I know I probably shouldn't say that out loud, but I did. So I had to go back on the medicine. And it finally got to the point where I started healing so much that I could lower my medicine. And then I got to the point where I'm off of it, like completely. I don't have to take even like natural supplements for anxiety or anything. Because what happens is now that I've done all this healing, I stopped feeling all of those emotions that were correlated with such wounds and pain. And if I do start to feel the emotions, I start to honor them. I take time to feel them, I purge them, and move through them. And that, to me, is so much better than relying on medications. Not saying you shouldn't, because obviously it's a process. It's years for me. So don't go off your medicine. That's not medical advice. But I think as you start to heal, you'll notice you don't need it as much. And I feel like that's freedom, right? Freedom from such misery internally. So if you are interested in starting your healing journey, I opened a healing portal. That's a community for like-minded souls that want to do significant transitional work. I mean, these healings are so powerful. They're channeled from the highest light of angels, and they do not play, okay? So feel free to take a look at that. It's linked in my bio, and I'm here to support you. Love you.